welcome to another episode of Lexitecture, a podcast about words by word nerds and for you. My name is Ryan, and in each episode, my friend Amy and I will be talking about our two favorite words of the week, looking at their origins and history, and generally chatting about how they got to where they are today. If that sounds like your cup of tea, come along for the ride and let's explore the weird and wonderful world of the English language. Today's episode, Embarrassing Zero. So my word today is embarrass.
Oh, lovely.
E-M-B-A.
Spelling nemesis.
Yeah, that's right. Double R, double S, despite all inclinations to do anything otherwise. I can literally never spell this right the first time. It's ridiculous. So I looked into this just kind of on a whim. Sometimes when I'm casting around for words, sometimes there's a word that comes to me and I'm like, oh, I should look that up. That'd be really interesting.
Yeah,
because
sure.
this, that, and the other thing. And sometimes I just find myself sitting in front of the computer with the OED up and just punching in random words to see what shows up. And oftentimes I end with a bunch of words that I go, well, that's a letdown. But this time...
That is not what I was expecting the end of that sentence to be.
Yeah. But other times I type in the word embarrass, and on the third try, when I spell it properly, I find a bunch of interesting things. So it's quite an old word, and it goes back from French and Spanish, but it finds its roots in Portuguese, actually.
Okay.
And in the early 13th century and sort of possibly even late 12th century, it is formed from the prefix em, with the ending baraço. I'm not sure whether they do the lisp thing, European lisp thing in Portuguese. I don't know. B-A-R-A-C with the tail O. Okay. And baraço, or whatever that word is, means cord, or like referring to a leash or a tie for animals, for livestock and pets.
Okay. And
so the original meaning of embarrass was to impede or to hamper.
As in to encorden. There's a good word.
Exactly, yeah. So
that I just made up.
To ensnare or encorden. I like encorden. Yeah, so I thought that was... So as soon as I read that, I was like, okay, I think we may have something here, because that's...
Yeah, for sure.
Unexpected. And so, but it's a very simple word construction. It's just not the very simple word construction that I was expecting it to be.
Yeah, sure, exactly.
So the earliest uses date back forever in English, but it's always in that kind of ensnaring, tying up, tying down, making someone feel captive in a way.
Wow.
And then as it goes on, like later, it starts to transition kind of mid-1600s. And you start to get more of a metaphorical ensnarement type of thing. But it doesn't go all the way to what it means now. It's sort of self-conscious and kind of, oh shucks, what are you doing?
Yeah.
It started that journey as just confused or uncertain. So someone is just a little bit off their footing, like when you walk into a place and suddenly you feel like you're either under or overdressed.
Yeah, sure.
Not quite so much that you have to leave and change, but you're like, now I'm all of a sudden not sure what my place in this room is.
And that example is a very good one, which it makes it easy to see why that meaning of being a little bit confused and a little bit off then becomes that sense of I have broken an unwritten societal rule.
Yeah, exactly.
And thus I feel this way about it. Yeah.
So it starts with that kind of just uncertain, perplexed, confused, and then it's not until kind of the mid-1700s that you start getting more of a self-conscious sense to it, but it's obviously still kind of in the works. So like in 1751, there's a work that's cited in the OED, and the sentence is, "My steadiness of gaze began to embarrass and give her pain." And so you can kind of see all of the meanings there.
Yeah.
If someone's just staring at you.
It holds you fixed. It impedes you from moving on and doing something else.
And also, you might get a little confused and not sure what to do, but also you start going,
Is there something on my
like
face?
This.
Or do I have a chicken wing in my hair? Or is there some sort of thing that's going wrong with me at this very moment?
God, I hate when you get chicken wings in your hair.
Absolutely. Is one of us having a stroke right now? I just don't know. And then there was later on, it was actually Mary Wollstonecraft, author of Frankenstein, of course, in a letter.
Sorry, Mary Wollstonecraft, who became Mary Shelley. Sorry, yes. I was about to say Mary Wollstonecraft was not the author of Frankenstein, but then I realised I was talking nonsense. Please continue.
Said, I wished to have a room to myself, for their attention and rather distressing observation embarrassed me extremely. So that you have much more of a sense of the self-conscious, like there's a lot of attention on you and stuff like that. And then because we had discussions about public speaking and people's greater or lesser extent of comfort with that, by the 1800s it became a lot more tied with that idea. Nothing embarrassed me more than to be concerned in anything which required speaking or acting before a large concourse of people, was an 1837 attestation in the OED. So it's it also weirdly, maybe not weirdly, maybe perfectly normally, in the development of it towards meaning self-conscious, it has a huge tie to public speaking, actually, and performance.
That's very interesting.
And so a lot of it is specifically to do with a large group of people fixated on you. And so that's pretty much it. But I thought that was really interesting because it's not so often that I find one where the origin was so unexpected to me, but that I can totally see
how the etymology has worked out.
Yeah, its vestiges even still in the use now. So whenever anyone says, "Oh, I'm embarrassed," it's not that it's separate from the original meaning. It's like, oh, right, of course, because the feeling of embarrassment has all of the different steps of its evolution encased in it. You feel tied up. You feel kind of constrained. You feel uncertain and unsteady.
You've essentially found a real-life, living and breathing, wild Roger word.
Yeah, it has all of its own. It has all of its own various synonyms and their definitions encased in it. Yeah, so that is
very interesting.
Embarrass.
That's wonderful. Couple of things. Firstly, Mary Wollstonecraft did not write Frankenstein, but she was a novelist. She was a writer.
Oh, really? Okay.
A writer, philosopher, and advocate of women's rights, and she's best known for a vindication of the rights of women. Sorry, woman. Her daughter, who became Mary Shelley, was Mary Wollstonecraft Godwin before she was Mary Shelley.
Okay.
And what I was interested in immediately before I got confused about Frankenstein authorship was that I knew that Wollstonecraft is best known for a vindication of the rights of women, and the example that you gave of Wollstonecraft's use of embarrassed struck me as quite a, I suppose, given the time that it was written, a reasonably empowered woman who did not simply say, "I will put up with whatever society inflicts upon me," said, in fact, this sense of embarrassment is something that I want to avoid and get away from. So I'm going to take steps to, move myself away from this feeling because I don't like it.
That's interesting because that's also kind of it's subverting the usual assumption of how independence and empowerment would work. Because I feel like there's a lot of sense where in order to be empowered, you have to simply be able to put up with or not notice impediments that others put in front of you. But it's just a way of being empowered to be affected by them, and then to say, no, I'm not putting up with that. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, absolutely. As active empowerment versus passive empowerment.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose empowerment, the sense of having power, it's understatement of the universe, Amy. It's complicated. It's complicated because power is complicated. But yeah, I think that having the power to say this situation is inherently bad for me, and so I will remove myself from it, is just as powerful as saying this situation is inherently bad for me, thus I will break it apart and use my agency to change the outcome of the situation.
Mm-hmm.
I think those are two different ways of two different methods of empowerment.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that before. The other thing that I'm interested in is embarazada, which is a Spanish word.
Okay.
And given that the etymology, Portuguese through French through Spanish, should be, is what you mentioned, embarazada, too many syllables, however many syllables that word has, is Spanish for pregnant.
Oh.
I'm now going to check that, because as soon as I said that, I thought, I'm wrong.
I hate that feeling.
Embarazada, Spanish word for pregnant.
Hmm.
It is a false friend for native English-speaking students of Spanish who may attempt to say I'm embarrassed by saying estoy embarazada, which actually means I'm pregnant.
Which would lead to you being embarrassed.
Yeah, well, indeed. Yes.
That's interesting.
Interesting in the sense of being tethered.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking as well. There's
hampered, hindered. That's the Wikipedia entry says, complicating the issue further, embarazada can sometimes also mean hampered or hindered. This more closely mirrors the original meaning of the English word embarrass.
That's interesting.
The Spanish, the correct way to say I'm embarrassed, tengo vergüenza, translates to I have shame. Which is very, very straight to the point. None of the nuances of embarrassment and all the various different kind of waters that it has swum in before it's got into here. I have shame. Yeah.
That's interesting. And it's also a very internal, like all the meanings of the verb embarrass. Mm-hmm. And then the adjective of being embarrassed was later, but they all involve other people doing things to you. Like an external force embarrasses you.
That's very interesting.
Like that is, I have shame, so I am embarrassed. It's an essential thing, like an existential state of being embarrassed.
Well, if I continue with the Wikipedia entry for embarazada, it states it is a past participle, meaning that it indicates a state resulting from a previous action. And it says in English, past participles usually end in ed, as in destroyed, and embarazado therefore translates directly into English as impregnated, a conjugated form of embarrass or to impregnate. As the word embarazado is masculine, it is rarely encountered in Spanish. It's more common for the word embarazada to be used to describe pregnancy. However, embarazado can be used as a past participle in perfect tenses, as in el hombre ha embarazado a la mujer, the man has impregnated the woman, which it very much has that sense that you're talking about of someone having done something to you.
Yeah, well, there's definitely an action involved there.
Yeah. Interesting. Cool.
Neat.
Embarrass. Okay. Well, I now feel like I have the call of what the episode title is going to be. This is quite this is a bit of pressure.
There you go.
And of course taking a risk too, because what if your next word doesn't go as well with the one that it's a lottery.
It's a lottery. That's what it is.
Okay. Well, given that, I suppose it does. I suppose it sort of relates very obliquely to what you're talking about.
Okay.
The word that I would like to discuss today is zero. Z-E-R-O. And whole books and treatises have been written on the concept of zero, the mathematical and numerical concept of zero.
Right.
I will, however, today be looking more at the etymological sense of the word, because that's what I like, I suppose. So, 0, which is defined in OED, whose pages I have turned away from the definition for 0. Oh dear. 0. Cardinal number, no quantity or number, not the figure 0. And continues with a point on a scale or instrument from which a positive or negative quantity is reckoned. The temperature corresponding to 0 degrees C on the Celsius scale, marking the freezing point of water, etc., etc. In linguistics, it's the absence of an actual word or morpheme to realise a syntactic or morphological phenomenon. It is the lowest possible amount or level, nothing at all. Or it is a worthless or contemptibly undistinguished person. And the OED gives the origin. One can also have adjust an instrument to 0, as in 0 the counter when the tape is rewound.
Right.
Or to set the sights of a gun for firing. And that comes with that kind of has its roots too with to zero in, to take aim with a gun or a missile, or to focus your attention. So, the origin given here, it says early 17th century, from French zero or Italian zero, via Old Spanish from Arabic cifre, cipher. And this is where things get a little bit interesting. So, the Arabic cifr, S-I-F-R, which I have no idea how to pronounce because I don't know much about Arabic, becomes the word cipher, which was used. Cipher has been used in a range of different contexts. It was at one point a word that meant any number at all, any figure. And it also has come to mean a code or a puzzle. But there's also the sense of, one can be a cipher, as in something that you don't know anything about. So if you have a look at cipher is also, the definition is given as naught or zero from the Arabic. And the Arabic word means empty or nothing. Now, that word, cipher, the Arabic word, comes from, it's a loan translation of a Sanskrit word, sunya or sunyas, which means empty. And what I've just now thought about and wish I had researched, so the loan translation of the Sanskrit word became safara, S-A-F-A-R-A, to be empty. And I'm wondering, oh no, I've got my vowels, my consonants confused. I was thinking Sahara and wondering if that notion
like
of
emptiness, nothingness.
Yeah, but I think I'm up the wrong etymological tree. Anyway, so the cipher came to mean any numeral, or first in French or Italian, in the 1520s it was first attested as a secret way of writing or a coded message. Here it says because early codes often substituted letters for numbers. And the sense of something or someone of no value, consequence or power is from the 1570s. Cipher was also a verb and is cited in the 1520s as in to do arithmetic. So to cipher a calculation, I suppose. However, cipher from this Arabic word then found its way into Latin. And the word was used first by Leonardo Fibonacci, he of the famous sequence. And Fibonacci's usage of the word zephyrum, that's Z-E-P-H-I-R-U-M, borrowed from the sense of cipher or cifra, the Arabic, meaning nothing. You can see how that loan word sounds a little bit like the word that Fibonacci knew from Arabic. However, in 1202, when he was talking about Zephyrum, making this the Latin word for zero, if you like, because of course the concept of zero and its communication to the Western world is way, way later than Latin.
Yeah.
Zephyrum, however, I compared that to Zephyr with a Y, Zephyr. And Zephyr with a Y, means the west wind.
Oh, yeah.
It strikes me as interesting that a powerful thing that cannot be seen, but that can, however, have a great impact on other things, is a very, very close homonym for the word that Fibonacci chose to transplant into Latin to describe the number 0.
Yeah.
And thus, from cipher and cipher and zephyr, Zephyrus, and then Zephyr, all of this adding up to nothing much with 0. That's my word for this week.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I've always, it's the connection with cipher and to decipher something.
Yeah.
So in a way, when you're deciphering something or when you're zeroing in on something, you're doing the same thing, but it all, as you say, comes to nothing.
The sense of to zero in is much later. That's first recorded in 1944.
Oh, wow.
And, 1909.
Okay.
From instrument adjustment to a setting of 0, as the OED said. And then 1944 from rifle shooting to zeroing.
Right.
Yeah. And the sense of a person who is, a person who isn't worth very much, first recorded in 1813. Yeah, it's a very interesting concept, that of nothing. And if you look up 0 on Etom Online, which is where I kind of started, they have a link to a brief history of the invention of 0 is found here. And the link takes you to essentially the reason within mathematical systems that we need a number for nothing. Which is, as I say, it's an interesting story, but not the one that I chose to focus on today. But yeah, you assume that it was always there, 0, and it wasn't.
Yeah.
The Greeks and the Romans didn't have it, for example.
The concept of just absence of anything.
I mean, I presume they had the concept, but they didn't use it within their mathematical systems.
Yeah. That's very interesting.
So
I like that.
0. Big fat nothing.
Big fat nothing. It's interesting that it took until the 1800s for it to be applied to a person. I guess that's good. Yeah. Good for us as people. Not immediately applying, for once, not immediately taking a benevolent concept and turning it malevolent towards each other.
Yeah, that does seem to be the trend that we've found. But no, it took quite a few centuries for people to decide that people could be nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you think about it, that is quite
it's
what
damning,
an
isn't
indictment
it?
of someone's character. That's to be nothing is just you were just a person-shaped void.
Do you know the kids' book Holes? It was also made into a film by Disney. Oh, it's just wonderful. The film is a very good adaptation of the book. And it's about a boy, an unlucky boy called Stanley Yelnats. His name is the same front ways as back ways.
Oh, nice.
And Stanley's bad luck leads to him being sent to a camp, Camp Green Lake. And the sort of central concept of Camp Green Lake, which is a camp for bad boys, is that all of the inmates have to dig a hole every day out in the desert because there is no lake at Camp Green Lake. But one of the characters in Holes is called 0, and his name is Hector Zeroni, but the counsellors at the camp and the staff and the other kids call him 0 because they think that he is stupid and a bit of a cipher. But in fact, he doesn't want to talk to any of those people who are being mean to him, which kind of makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense.
It's a really, really fantastic book. We used to teach it in Scottish secondary schools. It's quite a popular book to teach to the kind of younger kids.
That's interesting.
I'm desperately trying to remember the name of the guy who wrote it, and it's eluding me at the moment. I'll look it up.
Mm-hmm.
The film stars a young Shia LaBeouf.
Oh, there you go.
But don't let that put you off it.
Yeah. I'll cross that one off the list. Oh, I guess not. Okay.
Hey, Roger, what do you say?
0.
Interesting. We've got insubstantiality, quantity, smallness, 0 again, not 1, coldness, I suppose 0 as in temperature.
Yeah.
The measurement on the thermometer, to zero in on, focus, centralise, converge or aim at. Then we also have entries for zero-based budgeting, zero-emission vehicle, 0 hour, 0 option, zero rated goods, and 0 tolerance. Yeah. So like for a word that... Sorry?
I was just going to say, I like the insubstantiality one is kind of interesting. You get the sense of the zephyr, a breeze being the same as 0. It's just...
Yeah, I did like the west wind suddenly meaning 0 for no other reason than that Fibonacci decided it sounded a bit like the Arabic word.
Yeah.
Embarrass, on the other hand... I will once again have to remember how to spell it. So we have embarras de choix, as in choice or plenty, or embarras de richesse, greatness, productiveness, plenty, redundance, or superfluity. Then we have embarrass, as in to be inexpedient. That's
interesting.
Very interesting one, yeah. To hinder, to trouble. So, yeah, all containing shades of the meaning that you discussed. Embarrassed, modest. Embarrassing, uncertain, difficult, or annoying. And embarrassment, predicament.
It's interesting that list reminds me of a thing that I meant to talk about as part of the main chunk of this, which is the connection.
That happens to me very often too.
That the phrase "an embarrassment of riches" could possibly be seen as someone who is sort of self-conscious about their affluence. But it originally, one of the meanings of embarrassment was to overwhelm someone with options or with riches. Or with, there's just so much there that you no longer know what to do in front of a massive buffet, and you don't know what to eat, so you end up being hungry for a bit.
Yes.
Which is stupid. But an embarrassment of riches didn't originally have the meaning of self-conscious yet.
Okay.
It was just...
I suppose back to your idea of confusion.
Yeah, there's too many choices, there's too many options, you don't know what to do.
Something's a bit off, and I'm not really sure what the correct way to proceed in this situation is.
And that's it for this episode of Lexitecture. Thanks for listening, and if you enjoyed what you heard, please give us a rating and review on iTunes, and be sure to tell all your word nerd friends about us too. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter by searching Lexitecture, Lexitecture. And if you'd like to get in touch with us about the things we talked about this episode, you can send us an email at words@lexitecture.com. Special thanks to the Joy Drops for our theme music, and we'll talk to you again next week.